You have $100. Not a tax return, not a birthday transfer from a relative who remembered this year. Not the proceeds from selling something you no longer use, $100. The amount that vanishes between a Friday night and a Sunday afternoon without a single decision you can point to. The amount that feels too embarrassing to invest and too real to ignore. You've been telling yourself you'll start when you have more. More is not coming. More is always slightly ahead of wherever you are, so you start with $100. You don't research it for 3 months. You don't wait for the market to settle or for the news to stop being what the news always is. You open the account on a Wednesday afternoon between two things you were supposed to be doing. You pick a total market index fund because someone whose opinion you trust told you to and you didn't have a better idea. You set up the automatic transfer. You click confirm. The account shows $100. You check it the next morning. It shows $99.20. You check it again before bed. Still $99.20. This is investing. You feed it $100 every month. Some months the number climbs, some months it drops. By month 6, the balance reads $578. You do the math. $578 is not a number that means anything yet. It won't cover your rent. It won't cover a plane ticket anywhere worth going. You know this. You transfer the $100 anyway because you've decided the transfer is not about the number. You've decided the transfer is a vote. It's a vote cast every month for the person you're trying to become. In an election where the results won't be announced for years. Nobody sees you do this. Nobody congratulates you. The account accepts the money the same way it always does, without acknowledgement, without ceremony. You're building something in private, and the thing you're building does not yet look like anything from the outside. There is a version of this story where you stop at month 4, not with a decision, not with a dramatic withdrawal or a moment of defeat. Just a month where the transfer slips because the checking account was tight and you told yourself you'd double it next month. Then next month comes and the $200 feels harder to spare than the original $100 did. So you do $100 again and tell yourself you'll catch up. Then a month where you do $60. Then a month where you do nothing and feel vaguely guilty every time the app icon appears on your phone. Then you move the app to a folder. Then you stop opening the folder. Then 6 months pass and the account sits at $578 earning almost nothing, because you never put it somewhere that grows and you've stopped thinking of yourself as someone who invests. This version of you is not a failure. This version of you is a person who ran into the gap that exists between knowing what to do and doing it without external pressure or visible reward. That gap is where most people quietly disappear from their own plans. Not with a decision, just with friction. Repeated. You don't disappear. You don't know yet what staying costs you or what it returns, but you stay. 12 months. You've put in $1,200. The account reads $1,312. The market helped you by $112. You could have made $112 helping someone move furniture on a Saturday. The number is not the point, and you're beginning to understand that, which is different from knowing it. Knowing it and understanding it from inside the experience are two separate things, and you now have the second one. What year one actually produced is harder to see in the balance. You tested an assumption 12 times and it was wrong 12 times. The assumption was that $100 was load-bearing in your monthly life, that its absence would register, that something would suffer. It didn't. The month didn't collapse without it. The things you thought it was holding up mostly held themselves up. But a few times it was tight and you found the money somewhere else. In the way that money always appears when the decision has already been made and the pressure is real. A $100 felt like a sacrifice before you gave it up. It stopped feeling like a sacrifice around month 3. By month 8, it felt like a bill. By month 12, it felt like nothing, which is exactly what it needs to feel like to last. 24 months, 2,400 contributed. The account reads $2,650. The gap between what you put in and what you have is 2,500 at, and it is starting to widen. Slowly. The way a river cuts a canyon, which is to say imperceptibly in any given week and obviously in retrospect, something changes in year 2 that has nothing to do with money. The anxiety around checking the account dissolves. Early on, opening the app carried a small physical charge, a half second of bracing before the number appeared. Now you open it the way you open a weather app. Informational, you're not waiting to be rescued or devastated, you're watching something grow at its own pace and you've accepted the pace. The market drops. It does this. It drops 14% across 11 weeks, for reasons that the news explains with great confidence, and that the market ignores entirely when it decides to recover. You watch roughly $380 leave the account. The account that read $2,650 reads $2,280. You feel it somewhere between your ribs, you sit with it for a few days, you don't sell. You transfer the $100 on the scheduled date because the schedule was never contingent on the market's mood. The $100 buys more shares than it did 2 months ago because the prices are lower. You don't find this comforting in the moment. You find it logical and you act on the logic, and that is enough. 8 months later, the market has recovered. Your account sits at $3,200. The shares bought during the drop are now worth more than what you paid. The discipline of the bad months compounded into the good ones. It does this reliably, and you will still feel the drop every time, and the feeling will still be unpleasant, and you will do the same thing anyway. That is not numbness. That is maturity. Year 3 closes. $3,600 contributed across 36 months. Account balance $4,750. You have $1,150 more than you put in. Compounding is no longer theoretical. It's in the account as an actual number, not large, but present. The gap is real and it is widening, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you are beginning to do the longer math for the first time without it feeling absurd. 5 years, 60 months. Total contributions $6,000. Account balance approximately $8,200 at a historically average return. $2,200 more than you deposited. You have more in this account than most people your age have saved anywhere. Not because you earn more, not because you had a head start, because you made one specific decision about one specific $100 at a specific moment, and you kept making it when there was nothing rewarding you for it. $8,200 is not the story. $8,200 is the receipt. The receipt that proves the machine works when you feed it. The receipt that proves you are someone who feeds the machine, which is a different kind of asset than anything listed in the account. Your relationship with money has changed in ways that don't appear in any balance. You know where it goes now. Not obsessively, not with a color-coded spreadsheet reviewed every Sunday, but with the casual awareness of someone who has stopped lying to themselves about the small decisions. You understand the difference between spending that produces something that lasts and spending that produces only the afternoon. You're not depriving yourself. You went on the trip, you bought the thing. You just stopped buying the thing, and also the other thing, and also the version of the thing you didn't need, because the $100 became non-negotiable, and non-negotiable things reshape everything around. At them without asking. Your patience is different. You've watched the market go up and you've watched it go down, and your instinct in both directions is no longer to act. It's to observe. You understand that a red number on a given Thursday is not a signal, it's weather. And you dress for the weather, and you wait for it to pass, and it passes. There's something else harder to name. At a distance that has opened quietly between you and people who are not building anything. Not a judgment, not a superiority you'd claim out loud. It's just a difference in direction that compounds the way money compounds. Small decisions made daily accumulating into a life that starts to look different from the outside. You feel it sometimes as a loneliness that doesn't have a clean explanation. You're moving and the movement is slow enough that nobody around you has noticed, and you haven't fully noticed either, until you look back and realize the distance is already real. 10 years. $12,000 contributed. Account balance approximately $20,500. You have $8,500 more than you put in. Last year alone, the account returned roughly $1,000 without a single additional dollar from you. From the shares, from the compounding, from time doing what time does when you give it something to work with. The returns are now approaching your monthly contribution in annual terms. You put in $1,200 a year, the account added $1,700 last year on its own. Your money has a job now. It shows up. It doesn't call in sick. It doesn't negotiate. It just compounds. 20 years, $24,000 contributed. Account balance approximately $76,000, $52,000 that you never deposited, never earned, never found. Built by leaving the machine alone long enough for it to build itself. And in year 1, the market returned $112. In year 10, it returned roughly $1,700. In year 20, the account returns approximately $7,000 in a single year. $7,000 from $100 a month. The machine is now contributing more annually than you are. You're almost a passenger. The journey began with a transfer on a Wednesday afternoon in a place you no longer live. 30 years, $36,000 contributed. Account balance approximately $227,000 on a $191,000 arrived without a single extra decision. At this balance, at a historical average return, the account generates roughly $22,700 annually, just under $1,900 a month, from $100. The $100 that felt too small to matter. That the $100 you almost didn't bother with because what could $100 possibly do? $1,900 a month is what $100 could do, given 30 years and no interference. 40 years. $48,000 contributed across 480 months. Account balance approximately $637,589,000 is the difference between what you put in and what you have. $589,000 built by time and by your refusal to stop. By 480 transfers that nobody witnessed. By the corrections you didn't sell through. By the years that passed without drama or visible reward. By the Wednesday afternoons when $100 went here instead of somewhere it would have disappeared by the weekend. Every month felt like nothing. Every month was nothing individually. The nothing stacked. The nothing compounded. The nothing became 637,000 a and a version of yourself that knows something most people will never test. The people who didn't start are still waiting for the right amount. They're waiting for the bonus, the raise, the moment when it finally makes sense to begin because the number is finally worth taking seriously. That moment is a mirage, it recedes. And when the money finally arrives, the habit of waiting arrives with it, and the money finds its way into a life that expanded exactly to receive it, and nothing is built. You didn't wait for the right amount. You started with the wrong amount. You started with $100 on a Wednesday when you had two other things to do, and you couldn't fully explain why this was the day, except that you were tired of the day never arriving on its own. That's where it starts. Not with the right conditions, not with the perfect plan or the ideal moment or the sum that finally feels worth the effort. With $100, with the machine switched on. The rest is time.